Every single person in this world has a story to share. Your story is your superpower, and it's unique to you. In sharing it with the world, you can impact millions of people. If you keep it to yourself, you are doing the world a disservice. This is Dela. I'm the host of Dela's Voice, and I help you share your superpower with the world.
Hello, and welcome to another Dela's Voice Sunday live talk show. This time we are speaking to one of my favorite speakers, Coach Stephon Leary. I am fortunate to have him on the show again, even though we both had run into some sort of, not difficulties, but out of ordinary predicaments. We are both here, and I'm joining you from the cottage country in Ontario, where I have been blessed to spend the past few days by a beautiful lake. And Coach Leary is, despite the fact that he has no power where he is, he's joining us also. And let's make this show happen. I hope that along the way you will drop us some comments as usual. I'm not able to take phone calls today because my technical capabilities are not the same as always. However, you can accompany us with the comments. And we are talking today about going through an illness. Have you ever gone through an illness, a serious illness, where you're feeling like, this is a dangerous situation. This could be a very dangerous situation. As you're going through this scary experience, life changes for you. You start looking at life from a different perspective. Perhaps you notice things that you've never noticed before. And you come out of this experience a totally changed person. That's the topic of today's show. We're talking to Coach Leary also about his recent book, my elevated soul. I apologize. A little bit about Coach Leary. If you have not heard him, you're in for a big treat. Coach Leary is a former college basketball player, but also a basketball coach. He's had years of experience coaching basketball for high school and at college level. He's also an entrepreneur, an inventor. He's a motivational speaker and author of 2 books. His first book is They Call Me Coach, and his recent book is The Elevated Soul. So I do apologize, not my elevated soul, it's the elevated soul. So here he is, Coach Stephon Leary on Dela's Voice once again.
So much, Dela. It's so good to be with you here today.
It's awesome to have you. Thank you so much for joining me, even though the situation is not,
it seems to be the story of my life right now. A little adversity never hurts anyone, right? A little pushing through and perseverance and making things work is the way to go.
I love that because, you just touched on something really important because that's one of the difference between people, right? A lot, some people would face adversity and they would stop. They would drop everything and they would just say, well, it is what it is. You may have not shown up today, and you may have said, well, I don't have power, Dela, so I'm not going to be able to join you. But you made the proper adjustments. You're in your car using your phone, your data.
That's right. I'm here.
Right? And I'm thinking there's a reason for this, Coach Leary.
Absolutely. I agree.
Someone is going to hear this message today, and they're going to be touched, and they're going to be inspired, and they're going to be looking at something they've never looked at before. It's going to be a reinforcement for them. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Excited about it. I love you and love what you do, and so excited to visit with you again. And so appreciate all my relationships and friendships. And when you go through things, makes you appreciate the great things in life. And most of all is your relationships, family, and friends. So good to be here with you.
Thank you. Thank you. So what's been going on lately?
Well,
let's hear.
I had a bout with COVID is what I had. And that's been my last 2.5 months or so. And when it came upon me, I had come to a busy time in my life. I had a friend of mine from high school who passed away, and the kids and the siblings all asked would I do the funeral. Well, I've never done a funeral before. I've spoken at a funeral, but to actually officiate a funeral, that was a little bit different for Coach Leary. So I had to commit myself and dive into that, and meanwhile conduct all the other things I was doing in my life at that time, business-wise. My mom and dad were embarking on their 50th anniversary. My biological mother was having her 74th birthday. And all of this was happening at the same time, and I had to make a run out of town. That I found myself just ripping and running, not resting, not taking care of myself normally like I used to. And so by the time I got done with that tough week, I get home and I think to myself, I don't feel well. In fact, when I was at my parents' house, I told my mom, I said, I think I need to get home. I'm not feeling well. And I get home, and being the typical man, we got all of we can handle it. We can take care of it. And so I went about a few days before I realized, maybe I have COVID. And talking to friends and family, my mom's called me, and my mom got COVID. My dad got COVID, and my niece got COVID. And they all made it to the hospital and got, the comorbidities and stuff, the antibodies, and they were fine. I was laying in my bed like I can't move. And so I realized I must have COVID. But in thinking I had COVID, I was still thinking, I'm going to try and, beat this thing on my own. So I started to, take some action, drinking stuff and staying hydrated. It wasn't working. And I had a friend of mine who came over and was helping me through the COVID thing. And she said, you need to go to the hospital. And I said, I probably need to, but let me just rest. I want to be at home. Let me just rest at home and see if I can beat this. And I waited about 10 days, which might have been 10 days too long, Dela. And finally, I had an episode where I was going from the restroom trying to get back to my couch. And I blacked out. And I stumbled from my restroom to bumping into the wall, falling just enough on the edge of my couch. And that's when I realized you need to go to the hospital. And so that next morning I was at the hospital, and I'm sitting in this waiting room where everyone else is. And they got me laid on this bed, and I'm kind of out of it. And this doctor comes in and he says, have you ever had liver problems? And I'm thinking, who's he talking to? Because I got other people around me. And he said, your lungs are been beat up pretty good. You have pneumonia. And yes, you confirmed for COVID. And it seems to be that you're developing some blood clots and your blood pressure is up. We're going to have to keep you. And I look at him and I said, who, me? You talking to me? I'm thinking he's talking to someone else. I'm thinking, who in the world, man? That's a lot of stuff that's going on with that person. And he said, no, sir, I'm talking to you. And he said, we're going to have to keep you. And it wasn't for long, man. I was in that bed. I was in my own room getting round the clock treatment, man. Every 4 hours, someone knocking on my door. So I didn't get much rest during that time. I was being treated around the clock for all of those different issues. And it was a time for me to reflect on, things that were going on in my life. I was kind of in and out of it. I would, wake up and come out of it a little bit and call my mom and dad and my parents, my family, close friends, and, communicate with them. But then I was back out. And so I went through this time, Dela, where...
Coach, I want to stop you for a moment.
Okay.
So you're first of all, thank you for sharing this with me. I know you said this is the first time you're speaking about this.
Yes.
On anyone's interviewing you. So I want to thank you for sharing it with me. The doctor is telling you all these different things that are wrong with you, and you're like, not me. I don't believe this. This is right.
I didn't believe it. I'm a coach and a trainer, so I work out pretty often. 4 or 5 times a week. So when he said all of those different things, I'm thinking. In fact, I haven't played basketball in a long time. Up and down the floor, I kind of mess around with my guys when we're trained. But that Sunday before this happened, I had played some full court basketball. My team won. I was making shots. I was feeling really good physically. So when he was repeating all of these things, I thought, he can't be talking to me. But he was.
And so this is really good. This is really important to talk about, because a lot of us are like that. I mean, I myself consider myself, I'm a very healthy person. I teach kickboxing, and so I eat well, and so I do all these things that I think I'm supposed to be doing, and so I take it for granted that I can get sick just like that. And when you're in that hospital emergency room being told all those things, that's the first time it's hitting you. Oh my goodness, I am so vulnerable.
Yes, it was, it's one of those things, as a former athlete, as someone who has competed, for my whole life. I never been at a place in the time where I was so vulnerable and sick. So when those things were being said to me, I was in shock. I was in shock when that happened. So
I want to take a moment and say hello to everybody who's watching us and has left us comments. Once again, Coach Leary, I appreciate you being here. I have a few people here who left us messages. Deborah is my friend, and she's a retired nurse and a stroke survivor in Florida. And she's always sharing her story and tips to possibly preventing getting other people also going through the same things. So sharing stuff like this is really, really helpful. I also have Erin Avila, another stroke survivor, who's always very vocal about this. Okay, so back to Coach Leary. So you were saying as you're staying at the hospital now, you are going through all these thought processes are going through your head. I'm muting us alternatively because there's a little ticking noise. So I'm gonna mute myself and unmute you now.
well, while I was in the hospital, I didn't realize, that I was as sick as I was. And so there were days where I had a difficult time where, I was wondering, man, when am I going to get out of this hospital? Because I didn't realize just how sick I was. And, being someone that's always been a go-getter, I'm ready to go. Little did I know, while I was in the hospital, I was losing weight. And I got up and went to the restroom one day. And when I got up and went to the restroom, I looked in the mirror and I thought, who is that? I was starting to lose weight and couldn't even recognize myself. And I got to the point where I started thinking to myself, man, this thing is really serious. And so I think it really clicked, that you're really sick. And they were telling me, I was asking them, when can I get out? And they said, sir, you've got a ways to go. We've got to clear your system. And they also said, you're going to have to pass a test before you get out. And so I got in there about day six, and I'm thinking, okay, when do I get to take this test? And this nurse said, well, let's see where you are. And she said, let's walk around the room for 5 minutes. So I got up out of my bed and I'm thinking, 5 minutes? That's nothing. And I get out of the bed and I start walking around my room. I get to about 30 seconds and I'm like, and I'm breathing hard. And she said, you need to sit down. And so I really realized, Dela, after about 6 days while I was in there, man, I really was hit pretty hard. And this really was more serious than I thought. And so, but, being a competitor, she told me I need to pass a test. So while she was those 4 hours around the clock when they were telling me that I was going to get, shot up in the stomach and take all these meds and stuff, I started walking in my room because I wanted to pass that test. So I started cheating, just walking in my room in between the time that they were coming in. And it was a couple of days after that all my vital signs and stuff were looking good enough to go home. And they told me that if I pass this test that I can go home. And so, but I was released to my mother and my mom and dad. I thought I was well enough to get out and go home and start life again. I was released to my mom and dad, in which I ended up staying with them for another 7, 8 days. And so it was more like 16 days that I was just down. And my parents have a lake sort of like where you're at. And I would go out to a walk to the lake every day. And I would pray and I would meditate and think. And, life seems to just make sense when you're going through things like that in your life. And I started to realize a lot of things in my life. And it was such a growing time for me that even though it was a time where I was probably facing one of the toughest things that I've faced, because I've never been sick like that. I've had injuries from playing, but I've never been sick. And a harsh reality sinked in and made me realize the important things in life. Made me refocus myself a bit and realize, the purpose in which God has for me here. And I started thinking about the many things that, once I get past this, that I want to do. And it kind of refocuses you and it helps you realize just how important life is and how grateful I am to life and how grateful I am to friends and family. And so I can look back now. I'm writing book number 3 and I'm writing the chapter on my bout with COVID. And I'm grateful for
Um, Coach Leary, every time I speak to you on this show, by the time the show is over, I've always said this to myself. This is one man who has it all figured out. He he knows he knows why he's here, and he knows he's got the purpose thing all down, and he's got, he just knows. And so you're saying you went through this experience, and all those times where you walked to the lake and you were meditating, and you got to really think about the purpose of why you're here. And so what did you learn about yourself?
Well, first of all, thank you for that compliment, but oh goodness, Della, I don't have it all figured out. I would say for me that I've been going through a transition in my life for about 7 or 8 years. And even though I've been fortunate and blessed to have had some sort of success and achieved some things along the way, I don't think that I quite have stepped into what my next phase of my life is. And I think that was sort of the reason why I had this major transition into speaking and writing. Um, I went through a divorce, 2014, and it seems to me, from the outside looking in, many people think, that because I've accomplished some things, that I have it all together. But inside, I think I've faced some things in my life that I didn't quite figure out from the inside. And so some of the things of what COVID did for me was growing up as a kid in the inner city and in an abused, home situation, and then a single mom with 7 kids. I've always been driven to be successful. I've always been driven to accomplish things in my life. And I can seemingly do those things without proper support, love, friendships, relationships around me. It was that inner drive in me that caused me to do those things. But the thing that I really craved the most, Della, was relationship. And the thing that I really craved the most was purpose. And while I was on this road to striving for purpose, I ran from relationships. And it's the reason why I value my relationships even more now. This wasn't dating anyone. I was in love with building a business. I was in love with inventing a shoe. I was in love when I switched to writing, and I was in love with writing books and speaking. And I think I've just been on this hamster on the wheel, to where I've been just seeking purpose and accomplishments and achievements in life, where I don't know that I've ever stopped and smelled the roses a little bit. And so what I think COVID taught me is to stop and enjoy life a little bit more. My friends, my family. I've been on this thing of wanting to just strive for success, for a feeling for myself of being successful, because of those lost relationships, those hurtful relationships over the years. And I think right now for me, Della, I think the thing that I realize the most is that I'm beginning to see the purpose in all of what I've been through. And I'm beginning to see the end of where all of that purpose is going to lead to. And I've always had dreams and goals of accomplishing things, but I don't know that I truly understand and knew what the purpose was in those things. And I think what happens to us in life is that we want to accomplish things in life so much. We want to reach plateaus so much in life that we become so driven toward those things that we forget about the things that are most important. And I've always had great relationships with kids, with families, with friends, but I never stopped to smell the roses. I was on this hamster on the wheel where I was just churning and churning and churning, and went from one thing to the next. And I believe, being a man of faith, that God saw that at the time that I was going through COVID. As I explained to you, I had all of these different things going on, and God was saying to me, you need to take a break, brother. And I think this whole thing has been about my book. My new book is launching. I was sitting in the hospital angry. My university was going to allow for me to do a book launch right around homecoming. And here I was sitting in the hospital, and I was going to miss out on that opportunity.
Oh,
And at first I was angry about that because I'm thinking, it's another one of those plateaus. It's another one of those success things. Get out of the hospital, go back to homecoming and launch the new book, see all your friends and whatever. And it was a time where I had to reflect back on God had other plans for me. And I needed to stop and just smell the roses a little bit, enjoy the friends and family that I have, not to get on this hamster wheel of success, and not to feel like my whole life and what was my life was worth was caught up in my achievements and my accomplishments. And all of that stems from, as a kid, running from trouble inside in the hood, staying out of trouble. I ran to things. And I played basketball, I played football, I did whatever I could to stay out of trouble. But I realized that I've developed a pattern in my life of running to accomplish things as opposed to, stopping and smelling the roses and enjoy things.
I love that. I want to ask you, had you ever heard anyone say that to you? Did anyone ever say to you, Coach Leary, you need to stop and smell the roses?
I have a wonderful mother. My mom is, I tell people my adopted mother, for whatever reason, God gave her a thermometer into my life. She knows my every heartbeat. She seems to know every step I take. That she's the one who's always telling me, you need to slow down. In fact, when I was at her house, I was 3-4 days in, and I was like, Mom, I gotta get well. I gotta go. I gotta go. I gotta go. And I actually left. A couple of days sooner than she wanted me to leave. And she was saying the same thing to me that you're saying now. Who's that person that tells me that? And she's that person. She tells me, okay, now I'm gonna agree to let you go home. Here I am in my 50 years old, and my mom's still telling me what I should do. She said, I'm gonna agree to let you go home, but you can't get involved in anything right now. You need to rest. You need to rest. Take this time and advantage of this time that God's given you to rest. And it's been a very difficult thing for me, Dela. It has been. And but I'm starting to see and find the value in resting. I've never done that before in my life, and so I'm starting to see and value the time that God's given me to rest and recuperate, and to find the purpose in which we go through certain things in our life for elevation. Right? That's my book. Um, God wants to take us to higher levels in life. He wants more things for us in life. And as long as we remain in the valley and be content, you'll never reach the mountaintop.
Coach Leary, I had an epiphany as you were talking. See what happens. You know, we are constantly going towards our accomplishments. Some people are like that. You know, we're go-getters, and we want to reach this and reach that, and do this and do that, and write this book and start this business and get this done. And so yes, and what we don't realize, what I sometimes forget, is that there are so many people around me that are always supporting me and pushing me, and there are my cheerleaders, and they're the ones who stand by me and push me, and sometimes I take them for granted. So, oh my gosh, thank you so much for that reminder today, that those relationships are what keep us going. And at the end of the day, without those relationships, without those people who are by our sides, doesn't matter how many books I write, or it doesn't matter how many shows I make, they mean nothing. And so, wow, thank you. Wow.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. I truly believe that, people like you, myself, that are, entrepreneurial spirits and want to help people, inspire people, and use our gifts and talent to help people, that, we can get caught up on this cycle in life of helping people, but not realizing true help of people is also touching hands and hearts, not just through our giftings, of what I would think mine was, basketball, just training and training and training, but not realizing that, just spending quality time with people, helping inspire. I had a friend who reached out to me while I was in the hospital. It was a former player who was going through a very difficult time in his life. And he reached out to me while I was in the hospital. And he said, Coach, I'm going through a very difficult time. I don't know who to reach out to. And so I thought I'd reach out to you. And I hadn't spoken to him in a few years. He's 22 now. I probably haven't spoken to him since he was a senior in college, high school. And so he reached out to me and he says, Coach, wondering if we could sit down and visit. I've made some mistakes. I've been doing some things I shouldn't be doing. And I had to text him, I'm in the hospital and I'm not available. And when I text that to him, I don't think he knows this, but tears came to my eyes because I realized I wasn't available for someone that I've always wanted to be available for people. But I had run myself so far in the ground that I wasn't available. So I learned a lesson that we can get on this hamster wheel of success in life and achievement in life, so we're not even available for the things that are most important in my life. I also realized that that my grandma passed away while I had COVID as well, and I love my grandma so much. She's my sports grandma. She's my mom. My mom could just care less about sports and only watched it or did participate only to support us as a mother and a grandma, but she didn't like sports at all. So my grandma wants to know who's playing, what sports go on the TV, and she wants to know that from the time she wakes up to the time she goes to bed. And will I sit and visit with her and watch those sports with her? So we had that quality time in relationships in sports. And she passed away while I also was ill with COVID. And those are the things that I mean when I say, I realize that relationships, the opportunity that we have to impact others' lives through relationships, and not just being on this cycle of being successful in life, even though it's necessary. It's very necessary. We have to live, so we have to work and earn a living and things like that. However, let us not forget that one of the most important things is the relationships we have with friends and family, and the opportunity we have to help inspire others and touch others along the way. And that was something that I learned because this kid reached out to me, and I was able to, when I got well last week, text him and said, "Hey, I'm feeling a lot better, man. Where are you? Let's go. I want to meet." And so I was able to have lunch with him, and we've been meeting now, weekly, one day a week. So that has given me as much value in my life that I realized than anything that I could have done, successfully. So I just think it's an opportunity for me, and I think it's an opportunity for many of us to stop and smell the roses and enjoy life and use our lives to inspire and touch others, not just through, what we do, but giving of our time and of ourselves to truly impact people.
Thank you, Coach. I'm going to take a minute and go through the comment sections and make sure we say hello to everybody who's with us. I've got a couple of my wonderful Iranian viewers on here as well. I hoping they understand what we're talking about, but they're here nonetheless. I want to make sure we say hi to them. And also Lawrence joined us as well, and he says, great show and guest as always. Thank you, Lawrence. Thanks for being here. And I've got Ozzy, and Deborah says, I'm now on a hamster wheel to my present life. Yes, Ozzy, I can see you. Thank you for being here. She says, anyone can see me? Yes, we can see you. Marianne is here as well. And thank you so much for being here. And she says, great story. What you touched on just now is amazing, because we go doing what we think is really what we want to do. In your case, helping people. In my case, also like touching people's lives, and so many people on here also doing the same thing, that we forget to take care of ourselves. And it's like that old cliche of being on the airplane, and the first person you want to put the mask on is yourself before you can help anyone else. Because if you are not well, how can you help someone else? And yet we forget. And so I'm guilty of that. And I wanted to ask you, Coach, have you figured out a way for yourself to keep that balance? And I want to ask you for some input on that. I'm going to mute myself and unmute you.
I didn't catch that last part. Have I figured out a way?
Have you figured out a way to find a balance? How would you be able to do both? That's what
I would say that I'm working on that now, Dela. And the way that for me, that I'm working on that is trying to prioritize the things that mean the most to me. And those things for me have shifted, where I have had in the past things in my life that were lower on the totem pole, to actually move those things up on the totem pole. I think what we have is that we all have lists. We all have things that we want to accomplish each day we wake up, maybe the month, maybe the year, depending on what type of personality you are, But we have this list in which we feel good about ourselves when we check off things off our list. And I think for me, I was one of those people who did that. But I think I put too much emphasis on the work side and accomplishment of things, instead of on, the relationships and investing in things that, with people. I'm the type of person that people know me as, Coach Leary. I'm always available to help a kid, but helping a kid sometimes through training. It wasn't through, like I did with this kid, let's go to lunch. Let's just catch up, set aside 3 hours of a day to just, make a difference in someone else's life. The value of someone else's life, the value of your time in making a difference in someone else's life, probably is the most meaningful thing that we can do. We oftentimes neglect and forget about time spent. It's more important than just our verbiage. I think we've become a society who have, because of internet, because of things, that make it accessible for us, FaceTime and all that. Sometimes we think those things are, all that's necessary. And I believe they are necessary. And they've given us advantages to keep in touch with people, even like a conversation like we're having today, to reach people all over the world. It's necessary. However, I don't think there's any substitution for being able to impact someone by being able to touch hands and hearts. Some people just need a hug to say it's going to be all right. And I think what we've lost in society is we're not touching hands and hearts and giving people hugs anymore. COVID has done that to us. Think about it. You meet somebody and you're more or less going to get a fist pump or just a hi than, an embrace. How are you? Looking people in the eyes and being able to say, how are you? How are you really? We're able to share what's in our hearts and not just share what's on our mind. What's on our heart truly is the thing that impacts us to making decisions and choices that we make that makes the biggest difference in life. And yet I think that we've neglected those things because of what COVID has done to it. So for me, I've kind of just reprioritized things to say, hey, if someone needs to meet, make yourself available to me, and get off that hamster wheel, and it'll be okay. You'll be able to make up whatever you missed the next day. And that's been the hardest thing for me because I'm an overachiever. I'm someone that has strived to just be successful in everything I've ever done. So much so that I've ran myself in the ground that I can't help anyone, including myself. I'm so happy and grateful to be able to talk to you because last week my lungs weren't strong enough that I could have talked to you. So just to be able to use my voice again and be able to help inspire and help others, it's truly a blessing, and it helps me be mindful of how grateful I am. So,
Coach Larry, your voice is very, very valuable. So keep it strong, because you touch a lot of people by the stories you tell. Deborah has a good point. She says people do not remember so much what you do for them, and I'm thinking what you say to them, but instead they remember how you made them feel. And I so agree with this statement, Deborah. And let me see. Deborah also says, my grandma from Italy used to always say, after me, you come first. I love that, Deborah. You've said that before. I think your grandma was so wise to say that. After me, you come first. And that's not selfish. We need to remember that. That's not selfish. And let me see if there's anything else. Okay, here. Perfect. Thank you for those amazing words, Coach Larry. Now, your book, your newest book is coming out, or has come out. It was published, and I can't remember quite. I think you told me some organization was going to publish your book. And why don't you tell us a little bit about that? What's in the book? How did it come about? And how could people get your book? I'm going to mute myself.
My new book is The Elevated Soul. You are more than what you see. I'm so excited for this book. I wrote this book, Dela, in about 2.5 to 3 months. It was one of those books where it was something down inside of me that was burning, that I started writing, and I just could not stop writing. And what's in the book is a great story that everyone will find amusing. It starts out with the story of Simba in The Lion King. And Simba was a young pup, a young lion who wanted to do great things, but he wasn't patient enough and obedient enough to wait his turn to do those things. And because of that, he made some bad decisions. And we all make those bad decisions because we so want to be successful so much that we just jump out and do things even in the most inappropriate times. And so the first chapter you'll find very amusing. It's about the little lion cub Simba and his journey to wandering off, running from himself to a place where he didn't know himself. And he reinvented himself into someone that his friends and family, back home, of course, when Nyla found him, she didn't even know who he was. He denied the fact that his father had died. He did not want to go back. And so I used that storyline to say, you are more than what you see. We all are more than what we see because we oftentimes think about ourselves based on our failures. We oftentimes think about ourselves based on the bad choices we made, based on incidents that have happened in our lives. And life is so much more than that, that if we're going to ever be who God has created us to be, we got to do what my man, the Rafiki says, look harder. If you look harder into who you are, you will find that you are a son and a daughter of the King who has tremendous purpose for you in your life, who desires to do great things in your life. And as Simba, as a young lion cub, learned this valuable lesson, he wandered back. Not only wandered, he ran back to take his rightful place in life. And so that first chapter is really about helping all of us understand we are more than what we see, regardless of what we've gone through, regardless of what choices you made, regardless of what has happened to you, regardless of what you've done. You are more than what you see. There's tremendous purpose for you in this life, and you're going to be able to do great things if you go and pursue those things. And then I just wander off in the book into talking about specific things. I'm a psychology guy, so I get into some anxiety stuff. I talk about anxiety. I wanted to write a book that help people not just, on topics that we all relate to, character topics, but to try and help people understand even anxiety is something that we all can overcome. We all deal with them in different aspects of our lives. But then I talk about love, and then I talk about, mountains and valleys in our lives. And it's a wonderful, wonderful book. It was truly inspired from something deep inside of me that I could not. There were days where I would wake up in the morning and I would write so much that I would look outside and it was dark. And I would say, oh my gosh, where did the day go? And I didn't eat or anything. And it's just I think it's going to be a great book for everyone. And yes, my publisher is TVN, Trinity Broadcasting Network, which is the Christian channel that launches all over the world. And it's on cable. They're doing some social media stuff to promote the book. It's even a commercial on their TVN channel. So I'm very excited about this project and an opportunity to perhaps inspire and help people all over the world and help them understand no matter what you've gone through, you are more than what you see.
Thank you, Coach Larry. People can buy this book right now through, where can they buy it? Through Amazon? 1 second, let me just mute my...
Yes, you can purchase it through Amazon and other networks. I think it's even in a place like Target and places like that. So, but it's an exciting book. I'm excited for everyone to read it. I get a little, choked up and a little bit inspired by the first chapter about Simba, and everyone who loved The Lion King will remember that. But very inspiring. I hope it inspires and helps people wherever they are in the world.
Thank you so much, Coach Larry. I know that we spoke, intensively about this whole, a whole talk about how Simba, how we can see ourselves in that story, and it was amazing. I just loved that talk, and your book is going to touch so many lives, because all of us, we are more than what we see, and it's really important to remember that and we are more than what our past says and what our mistakes are, what our experiences are, but also we are more than our accomplishment too, as I understand today from this talk that we have today. We are so much more than what we do. So it's really important to remember that. Deborah says, I love the name of your new book, Coach, The Elevated Soul. Also, I've got another comment here from Tammy, says Stephon is such a blessing. And so thank you for that. And Deborah says, she says, incredible show. I needed this today. So I think I heard something today that I may have forgotten. So I'm sure that whoever was on here was here for a reason. And so if you were going to leave this talk today, Coach Leary, because I know you're in your car, I don't want to keep you too long, but if I'm going to give you a couple more minutes and, you know, leave us with whatever you like. Hold on.
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you again. It's my first opportunity to speak, and my lungs are strong enough to speak. So I'm very grateful and thankful that you wanted to have me on. Also, my shout out to my special friend Tammy, who made a comment. She's the one that helped me when I fell and took me to the hospital and everything. So she's been a tremendous blessing to me. So thank you so much, Tammy. And what I would say in closing is that we go through different things in life, and those things that we go through in life can often be seen as things as a hindrance that keep us from being the greatest of who we all desire and want to be. However, what I would also say to you is there's purpose for your pain. God has purpose for the things that happen in our lives. He has a place that he wants to take us through that involves some things that we're not aware of, that's keeping us from getting to the place where we want to be, and helping us to understand the things in our lives that's holding us back. And I think the most valuable thing that I've learned through this experience has been myself. I think the most important thing that we can do is we can be educated by ourselves. And I challenge each and every one of you to look within yourself, to find that thing that's inside of you that is holding you back and keeping you from being all that you're created to be. It's easy for us to look at the peripheral and see the things that are often there to help us, to challenge us in life. And we see those as our greatest challenges instead of looking within. The greatest peace you'll ever find in life is the peace of knowing that you've given yourself your best self. I challenge everyone, be the best for you. Not see your obstacles and challenges in life as something that'll hinder you or keep you from being great, but see it as an opportunity for you to become great. Use those challenging experiences to inspire you, to grow you, and be humble enough. This has been a very humbling experience for me. I haven't been able to do the things that I have done my whole life and what I love to do for over 2 months. And I am grasping at the opportunity to be able to do them again. But I have to realize that there is purpose for my pain and purpose for what I'm going through. And I want to commit to myself. We have to make a commitment to ourselves that if we truly want the best for ourselves, then we have to be willing to look at ourselves and to heal from within before we look for anything outside that keep us from being who we are called to be. You are more than what you see. Elevate your soul and find out what it is that God has for you.
Amazing, amazing. The Elevated Soul by Coach Stephon Leary. Buy that book. And also his previous book is called They Call Me Coach. Coach Leary has a fantastic story. His own life story is just something so inspiring and so wonderful to learn about. And I've just enjoyed this talk just as much as I've always enjoyed talking to Coach Leary. And I want to thank you again for being here, despite the fact that you had power outage and you had to sit in your car for the past hour. I do appreciate you, Coach, and I hope that we get to see you
Thank you, Dela. And we must do this again in a time and a place where we're both in inside a quiet and nice place where we can reconnect again. And so, thank you so much for having me. Again, it's been my first time that I've been able to get out and speak again. And you may catch me catching a little breath from here and there, but I'm getting better. I'm on the mend. I'm excited about what God has in store for me, and I look forward to catching up with you again. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Coach Larry. And thank you, everyone who's been with us for the past hour. As always, it's amazing to be here. I'm so grateful for this platform and for learning alongside with you, hearing from our amazing friends who give us their time and so generously share their knowledge and their experience with us. And I'm going to leave you. Please remember to share this talk with anyone who you think might benefit from hearing this. And being inspired by Coach Larry is a treat, as always. And so until next time, this has been Dela's voice, hoping to spark your soul. Take care. Bye, Coach.